Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, the wide receiver room stays busy with the addition of Micah Hudson this week and other targets being identified to join that group. Where else could some finishing touches be added? We investigate next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox. No console necessary. Just head to amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On. That's amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you once again and diving headfirst into a football-centric conversation today. NFL draft having come and gone has us wondering about maybe the future group of those folks, Red Raiders, destined for professional opportunity we could be discussing a year from now. I want to get to that hot sheet with you because I think that sheet's become a little hotter, as a matter of fact, given some of these additions and the professional prospects and profiles that they're already carrying into next season in the LBK. And, of course, I want to get to what's happening presently on campus as far as some finishing touches. And I feel like we're getting close enough to be able to call some of these things finishing touches. The portal party does have to end, I assume, at some point in time, but I know there are still targets out there, and there are some things still on a wish list that you've mentioned to us several times when we've talked about possible additions, say, at a running back position or among maybe the tight ends. And wide receiver has been often discussed, and we'll get to that room as well because it's become a little bit of a busy one with some recent news involving the addition of Micah Hudson. Just discussed that on a previous episode, so check it out if you haven't seen that one. But a whole lot still shaking, even though the window for entry has come to an end, Chris. The football portal process rolls on.
Our portal party will never, ever end. I refuse to let it die. I mean,
put it on a shirt.
I'm going to hold my cell phone little flashlight up and just wave it around, kind of like they used to do with the concerts where you got the lighter, you're burning your hand. No, it lives forever, man. I refuse to let it die. Somebody put another log on that fire. A couple of other things about Micah that I think is just important to note as we move forward, and then we'll talk about receiver in general, because I do think you've had a couple of visitors in here in the last 48, 72 hours. And you could be in a situation where you're going to pick one of them, or I don't think you would take both. But anyways, the Micah Hudson stuff. What's funny about because I'm going to contextualize this with talking about receiver in general, because how different, and maybe it doesn't, but how different does that bowl game look if Micah was never going to leave or hadn't left? He's a starter in that bowl game. Joey said as much to me on one of his coaches' shows back in middle or latter part of the season. Like, man, he's somebody that has a chance to we'll get a longer look at him in December, and he's probably starting the bowl game and this and that. And then we certainly know with Josh Kelly not being able to finish up the season and opting out and all that, he probably would have. And so there's that. But then also, here's the main part of what I wanted to bring up. What if he's in the mix and you see some promise and all that, and you go, you know what? I don't know if we need to go get a receiver in the portal. What if Reggie Virgil's not even here? I mean, because I think that you really felt the need to go get somebody in the portal once Micah left and you had a few other younger pieces. You just needed some experience. But, there's a direct correlation there, possibly. I just think it's kind of fascinating. I would also offer this up, too. I hope that, or I'm curious on who Micah lives with or rooms with this go round. Let's hope let's hope there's some quality, good human around there. Unlike, I'll just leave it be. That interesting to note on kind of what that looks like. And you know what else too? Because he leaves and comes back, your portal class ranking got another major bump. If you're into that kind of thing, just saying. I seen our fearless leader Cody Campbell tweet out #1 portal ranked class in the country. But you know what helped that is Micah Hudson, only because he left, spent a week in College Station, and then came back. You get a little credit for that, even though I feel like he really never left here.
Hey, we use all the bonus points we can get. And yeah, I think not only citing the ranking as it stands right now, but the cumulative score of that ranking, whatever that's worth, the highest ever scored for whatever outlet they were citing. So if it's worth something to you, there you go. If not, we'll just move on with our lives. But I do think that the group of wide receivers is especially interesting in this sense because, or the sense you're kind of describing it there, do you have it still come together in the fashion that it is? If you don't go the route where you're kind of seeing some numbers shift, then you get one back. And I guess at the end of the day, we're in a better position because of that path. It's hard to say. We're still talking on paper, but I will say this too, Chris, the anticipation of Micah Hudson's return has been there for some time. We've alluded to it over and over. There were a few points, I think, further back where you thought, all right, maybe there's a chance. The next week seemed like, okay, just take it off the radar entirely. But I know there's been some anticipation for him to factor in, certainly internally speaking, but that hasn't seemed to slow down the targeting of some of these other pass catchers. So I think that also suggests maybe some context in which they view him coming into this season. But, you know, given what you are losing in Josh Kelly, I don't know. And also that you've been impacted by some what people are describing as modest injury, but still some injury with that group. Maybe that's also affected what you're continuing to think as far as adding to it.
Yeah, Reggie Virgil, obviously he'll be, you know, he's got a foot issue. He'll be back in 6 weeks or so. Should be okay. Yeah, it's like because LJ Johnson just leaves you. He goes to Texas State. Remember Jordan Brown was looking for a bit more than, and I just wonder if he would have stayed, what that would have looked like. But anyway, what did he go to play for the Wolfpack there in Reno? Is that right? Do I have that right? I think maybe so. Or at least that was the rumor at one point, but maybe I'm wrong there.
Somebody wound up at Texas State. I may be confused.
Yeah, that's LJ Johnson. Okay. And then like DJ Crest is still out there. But bottom line is you had a need for receiver, and I think you're clearly trying to fill that void still, because there's a couple of experienced guys, Caleb, I think Coy, and obviously Reggie Virgil. Although Virgil has only got like one main season of a ton of playing time. He grew, the light came on, and all those things. So really, just last season was his first, foray into like being a heavy lifter. And then you've got a bunch of inexperience and guys that like with promise and potential and some recruiting and all the stuff that we've heard of, including Stone and Deaver that just got here. And then you've got Volson and Morgan and Turner and West and on it goes. But you've hosted.
First, today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Imagine watching your favorite team at the college basketball tournament live, feeling the energy of the crowd, witnessing unforgettable moments. We all know there's nothing like experiencing a big game in person, and getting tickets shouldn't be stressful. That's where Game Time comes in, making it easier than ever to grab last-minute seats at unbeatable prices. With Game Time Picks, curation makes it even easier to find better value for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And the one and only lowest price guarantee, which means you get the lowest price or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Plus, peace of mind with seat views before you buy, no surprise fees, and the lowest price guarantee. You can book with total confidence. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed.
You've hosted Roy Alexander, and you've hosted, make sure I say this name right, Ymir Knight. And I think you had interest in hosting Ted Hurst from Georgia State. I'm not saying you're going to end up with one of these guys. It appears Hurst is going to return back to Georgia State. That was reported over the weekend, I guess. He was getting heavy interest. He's 6'3". He doesn't necessarily fill your slot need. I don't know how that would have looked. He's more of an outside guy. Alexander's 5'10", and Knight is 5'8". They are more naturally built for the slot. But that's why, I'd always said that there was your interest in pulling one in from the portal was never directly tied to Micah Hudson coming back here or not. I don't even know if he wouldn't have come back if you would have gone after two. You were always going to bring in one, I think, and that's still the goal. Could it be Alexander? Could it be Knight? Could it be door number 3? I don't know, but you're going to bring in somebody with some experience. Alexander is somebody that he's got better numbers. He's the 1,000-yard receiver for Incarnate Word. There is no, even though they both spent time in Incarnate Word, there is no crossover between Mac Leftwich and Roy Alexander. And he's just a 1-year guy. And then Knight has got 2 years left. I don't know if that factors into your decision or not, or if you're just like, we want the best player right now. But we'll kind of see what that looks like. But I gather this is one or the other, or door number 3. That's what I think. Now, I don't want to talk in absolutes, but in that, could you take both? I don't know. I gather this is one or the other if it's these two players, because they're very similar. And I think you want to also leave some room for some of your young guys like Morgan, Turner, and Volson, and all these guys to kind of grow into this deal. But there is a need here for some more experience, and there's some snaps to be had here for somebody if they fit it right. And I think I wouldn't rule out as a returner either, like as in kick or punt. I think, Cam Dickey and Jacoby Williams factored in there a little bit, but I think if you listen to Kenny Perry at the latter part of the spring, it's not necessarily solidified yet. And I think, like in Knight's case, he's got some experience there.
I think that was something else I saw questioned by, I think it was a Matador Mobster that was texting about this, but the utilization of a guy like Micah Hudson anywhere in a return game or something, if he'd be viewed in that kind of category. I was also curious too about the measurables or the profile sort of these guys that they're targeting, because it did seem like you were just touching on. There was some variety there, at least in what was targeted. Now, what's a feasible option? Seems like it's been narrowed down to something a little bit more similar. But I know we've talked a lot about slot, but it almost seems like, hey, they'll figure it out if they've got a pass catcher they like that's willing to become a Red Raider. There may be some shifting otherwise, but I guess slot is still the 1A to any other options 1B.
Yeah, you want different sizes and shapes here, and I think you prefer. I'm not saying that you want a smaller guy like on purpose, but that's kind of what you want. Somebody that's going to get matched up on linebackers. It's somebody who can be underneath. It's got some juice to them. It's hard to bring down. I think that's what you're looking for, and I will offer this up too. When you bring this person in and you land on either Alexander or Knight or door number 3. Is this going to be a starter? I don't know. I just say there's snaps to be had, because I will offer this up. I can't rule out Jacoby Williams getting some snaps in the slot. Also, Terrence Carter. See what I mean by different sizes and shapes?
Sure.
It's like it's all about matchups. It's all about package. It's all about what you're trying to get done in terms of tempo. And in so many ways, you're looking for experience, but this is also insurance too. You just want another guy that somebody can make plays, move the chains, all the things. And some of these group of five guys, I mean, like Hurst, the Georgia State kid, he doesn't necessarily fit exactly what you're needing, but I think in that case, you're just looking like, let's go find the best player, and then we'll make it work. I don't know what that would have looked like because he's 6'3" and he's more of a naturally outside guy. But we've even heard them talk about, that they would put Virgil inside, they'd put Coy outside, and even though he's kind of been playing some slots, so you're just trying to collect experience and talent here. It just so happens that you would prefer a more natural slot receiver that fits in with what else you've collected and then turn it loose. But you're on the hunt there, and I bet you get something announced pretty quickly.
Variety is the spice of life. One of my favorite so-called slot or inside receiver or half tight end combinations we've ever had. Jason Morrow on one side, Jakeem Grant on the other side. It was like the football equivalent of the movie Twins with Arnold and Danny DeVito, except Danny DeVito was lightning fast in this instance. But I just love seeing those guys on the field at the same time. You want to talk about some matchup issues for a defense. That's hard to get a handle on. And I'm really curious, Chris, I know we're kind of offensively centric here. I want to ask you about the defensive need, if there is one, because I know you've mentioned in some recent episodes, maybe a look at a safety here or there, or some defensive back interest here or there. But offensively, is it now with the Cameron Valdez departure, is it a must that we're going to have another running back that's going to be targeted or added? Are we going back to talking again still about a pass catcher, but maybe somebody more so in the form of a tight end that can really contribute in the run game? Are these just if you find them and you like them, we'll add them, or are these some priorities to kind of finish this thing out?
I think that really this may come down to we're going to roll with what we've got, and we want a receiver, and then we'll just kind of see what happens. And I think you have to be careful about pinning yourself down here, because there's always things that change. There's an injury, there's a something or other, there's whatever. So I just, you want to, but I think generally speaking, they feel a need and want at wideout, and I think they'll roll with whatever else they've got. I mean, we talked about tight end, we talked about running back. I think that you may start hearing more about Adam Hill at running back, who's the fourth one, and I think Trey Jackson, young tight end. I think that they're just, and so Jason Llewellyn at tight end, and you've got some other options there. I just, if you could have found an upgrade, I just wasn't ready to rule any of that out. But I think at this point, it's not just a preference or a wish list, but I think you really want / need a slot receiver. They've been on the hunt for month to 6 weeks. There was one in the Big Ten that I think they were ready to jump on had he gotten in. He did not. And so you're going to go find one. And assuming that you find one that is an upgrade or that fits or that can help you, I don't think you're just going to settle. There was a Utah receiver that I think they looked at that ended up going to USC. But as far as tight end or running back or even safety per se, I think you'll probably sit tight. But again, there's a free agent list. And what's funny is, Cowan, is there's so many guys that have gotten into the portal, there's no spot to land. I mean, several of the guys that got into the portal from Texas Tech back in December haven't really found a place yet. And this is just part of the game that you play when you're seeking something elsewhere, especially if you're a young player that doesn't have any tape out there. So, not that they won't end up somewhere, but there's just not going to be enough chairs to sit in for everybody that's out there looking for a place to sit.
Yeah, you always want to have a stone to leap to whenever you've left one. And I think in this instance, you're really wanting to have been tampered with prior. You're wanting to have something that you're good about before you hit in the portal, because so much is uncertain.
Bird in the hand, man. You're right, because it's just not a good spot to be in if you've got nowhere to go. So
Okay, there's some things to focus in on here as we are nearing some, at least for the time being, completion of this picture. But this is also coming from the same man who just told us, I swear, a few minutes ago, he will not let this portal party die. So you never know what Chris Level's got cooked up in weeks to come. Stand by for maybe some news to pop as far as these potential additions we're discussing here this week. Best way to do it is to get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Before we get out of here today, Chris, I want to get to a conversation that's exciting already and probably only going to get more exciting as we get into the season and hopefully through productive seasons for some of these guys in the fall. We all know about the additions to your roster, both offensively and defensively. And some of these guys, I'd like to even say a few or more than a few, have got legit professional prospects ahead of them. So with the NFL draft now recently in our rear view, I wanted to maybe look down the road and talk a little bit about the next class that we could be discussing as far as Red Raiders headed for NFL opportunities. First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel, and the NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers a great way to get in on all the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet hits. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to really win big. So don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. As far as Red Raiders headed for NFL opportunities, because this picture is changing a little bit, I think, given what we are accustomed to, and really could be a special year as far as those draftables for Texas Tech.
Yeah, there's been a lot that's been made of the draft and the where the Big 12 fits in the draft in general. Some of the numbers are pretty staggering on like what the SEC and the Big 10 did. And there's lots of correlations that are drawn, and this is like, you can't fool 32 NFL teams. Yes, they make mistakes, but they generally get it right. And I think 26 of the 32 first-round draft picks were from those other two leagues. If the Big 12 or Texas Tech specifically ever wants to be taken really seriously, yes, you have to win in November and December and all those things, but it also correlates into hearing names called out in April. That's just the way it goes. You can't fool that many professional football people, and that's what kids are looking for, right, wrong, or indifferent. And so, what could the draft look like for Texas Tech a year from now? I tried to ask a few questions. I tried to do a little research and kind of peek ahead a little bit. I will offer up that mock drafts in February, like 2 or 3 months before the draft actually takes place, are a lot more accurate than those that come out the weeks right before the actual draft, because these things will change. Stock goes up, stock goes down. But it appears that you could have plenty of combine visitors, draftees, certainly a lengthy list of undrafted free agent type guys if they don't get their name called. But you're going to start to see that David Bailey, this is why we talked about him the way we did when you added him. I've seen him, in a mock already as high as 20th in the first round to second or third round type. I think the knock on David Bailey is that he's how good would he be against the run? We're talking about the NFL level. How he needs to work on that, and maybe needs to add a few more weight. But everybody will suggest what a big time pass rusher he is. His first step, his moves, his bend, all the things that you hear scouts talk about. But I would say he's in line to be the highest drafted player for you right now. A year from now. I think Lee Hunter and Romello Height and Will Jados and Reggie Virgil. I think Jacob Rodriguez. I think Skylar Gill Howard. I think Caleb Douglas. I mean, Caleb Douglas could be maybe next on that list. Knowing what we know now, things can change and will during the season, and injury or production or whatever. But that's the way it's supposed to work. And that's why guys come out and want to play hard. And when scouts show up, How hard does he practice? This is what they're looking for. Like you a list guy, and you show up on he's late or he's this or that, or is he a captain? And he's who everybody looks at. He practices hard every day. I mean, all this stuff. This is what they are looking at. But trying to remember John Carlos Miller, Bryce Pollock. I mean, Cole Wisniewski. I mean, there's plenty of possibles as far as a draft list. And I'm kind of fast. It's like a jumbled mess right now. I just know David Bailey's probably at the top of the list. A year from now, I just don't know what the rest of it looks like. And but it's fun to kind of find out. But you had 2 guys drafted. The Big 12 had like 32 picked in total. The SEC had 79. The Big 10 had 71. Yes, the Big 10 has 2 more schools. There's 18 teams. So, but this is just like the gap that you're going to need to close as a league if you want to be taken more seriously and whatnot. And the ACC had more draft picks than you did, so I don't know. There's some of that is certainly factors into the way your league is discussed for sure.
There's a Big Ten element that's not rooted in what I'm about to say, but the ACC, the SEC certainly are. The geographic footprint of where NFL talent comes from ain't Big 12 country as it is now. It ain't Big 10 country. Obviously, what the Pac-12 was. That wasn't even Pac-12 country. Forget the NFL. But there is per capita bigger, faster people in the South and Southeast. And I think that's what you see a lot of them benefit from. And I don't think it's a gap that'll ever be closed. I don't see how you close that gap. I just think, it's been that way even going back to UT inclusion, OU inclusion. You might go back even further than that. And there was always a gulf. The SEC and sort of everyone else, but the Big Ten now, they're kind of in lockstep with them. But I would like to dream of a day where you could. I really don't know how you do, though, Chris, because you got some challenges you're fighting against. We know that a will and a well-resourced will provide for some great results like we've seen so far. But is it enough to really take a bite out of that gap? I don't know. It's kind of crazy to think about, though, just in general. Even some of those teams, Chris, that didn't have, like a particularly special year or whatever for those programs, and then you see the number of draftables they wind up with, and you're just thinking, man, okay, that was a third-string guy that just got his name called, and we're just trying to pick our way through a handful or so for the most part out this way. But, man, congratulations to those guys who already got their name called, obviously, and will be headed off to camps in the NFL. And I'm looking forward to this cycle because you got some special opportunities and numbers you really hadn't had recently.
And, just to give you an idea, again, this can change, but, one of the highest players that could be drafted next year in the Big 12 is an offensive tackle for Utah. In some years, I'd be like, "Ooh, I don't know if we got an edge guy that can get after him." But that's the beauty of having a David Bailey or Romello Height. When they have somebody like this on their schedule, you think they won't be jacked up for that game in mid to late September in Salt Lake City? This is what NFL teams will go, let's see what he did against this guy specifically. Did he tap out? Because this is what he's going to be going against every day. Do you know another name that I've seen as a potential first-round player in the Big 12 Conference? Jordan Tyson, the receiver at Arizona State. Again, you bring in these DBs, and again, that Arizona State game is going to be big enough as it is because Sam Levitt's name is also as a first-round possibility as well, the quarterback at Arizona State. So just all of that, that game has got NFL draft ties to it as well with your secondary, with your defense in general. This is what an NFL QBs look like. He's got a wide receiver 1 over here that we could hear his name called early. So as you correlate it, but just to give people an idea, that's what, that's some of the storylines that you could be staring at coming up. But yeah, it's I love the draft talk, and that's NFL scouts come into your building all the time, and I think they are seeing a far different athlete than has been here previously. You just want to build some consistency there, and it's worth noting Taj Brooks and Caleb Rogers. These are homegrown dudes for you, man. These guys showed up here. You grew them into what they were. They had a couple different coaches and offensive schemes, but you turn them into draft picks, and they stuck with you and are better for it. Like Tyree Wilson, on the other hand, though, he showed up as a walk-on thanks to Matt Wells and Keith Patterson for a period of time, and then different coaches turn him into a top 10 pick. Shout out to Tim DeRuyter, previous defensive coordinator, and Keith Patterson as well. But anyway, so you can get them in all shapes and sizes. It's just kind of fascinating to see kind of some of your recent work and kind of where that's come from and how it came to be.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun to watch these guys pursue some what are typically life-changing opportunities. Unless you're Quinn Ewers, then it's like a $3 million pay cut to go to the NFL. But it's an interesting era. Chris, appreciate your time and perspectives as always. We will stand by for further news to continue this portal party with another log now thrown on the fire. Appreciate you as always, man, and we'll see you for the next one.
Bang, bang. Yes, we'll talk to everybody next time. Keep hope alive, everybody.
And get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Appreciate the everydayers always being out there. And shout out to the Matador Mob as well. Hit the show notes and find a link to a free 14-day trial. That's your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text sent straight to your phone. Thanks for the time. And as always, we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.